All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the guys again for the Bumps and Bruises podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Marcos, aka at the Sunset Kid. I'm always joined by Derek the Lock Stallion and by D Risen. Hey, everybody, how's everybody's week going?
Week's going pretty good, getting closer and closer to Mania. So, we're just getting everything planned out and getting ready to go for that, getting to enjoy the weekly wrestling.
That's dope. What about you? How are you, Shane? How's your week been?
We hold it in. Been a busy week. Lots of things going on, and it's April, so it's Mania time.
All right. So now that we got caught up with everybody, Shane, kick us off with what happened on SmackDown, brother.
SmackDown. I wish I could say it was amazing and full of energy, but for me, this is like the third week in a row that SmackDown hasn't really done it for me. They left a lot on the table. We start out as we have the last 3 weeks, which should be great. We got Cody coming out. Cody comes out, gets on the mic. What do we want to talk about? And as soon as we get ready to talk, out comes Randy. We got potential. We got something brewing. But it's the old cliche. Hey, go do what you're gonna do. And eventually, I did like that he did this. I'm gonna come for that 15th title. If you're still holding it, I'm gonna tell you I'm coming. I'm not gonna stab you in the back. That I'm okay with. Drew comes out and says, wait, hang on. What about me? I agree. What about Drew? Give that man a title run. But it didn't take long. Randy Cody beat him down, throw him out of the ring. For the opening segment, that it went almost 30 minutes. I felt like they left so much meat on the bone. There could have been so much more here than what we got. And especially for a segment that went 30 minutes, I was a little sad. I wanted to see a little bit more out of that.
So speaking of that segment, I feel like Randy doesn't really have a program right now. Is he facing anybody at Mania? Or is he sitting this one out?
Kevin Owens.
Oh, yeah. But has it been officially added to the card? Like, have they said what night?
Not what night, but I feel like it has been officially added.
I think later in the night, we get it officially added, even though it's not officially added. But later in the night, as we'll get to, we see more of that. But that's a great question. I had the exact same question during the segment because KO didn't come out. Drew did. I expected KO to come out. So putting Drew in there didn't fully make sense, but we can loop back to that.
Yep. What else happened?
We got some Street Profits. We wanted Street Profits, and it makes a whole lot of sense that Street Profits are going to go up against Pretty Deadly when we're in the UK. Good match, lots of back and forth, kind of went exactly how you would expect that match to go, which I'm not upset about. I think it was a good match. I think showcasing two really good teams, but the biggest takeaway for me, Pretty Deadly came out with that UK themed gear on point. Y'all know I'm a big gear guy. They knocked it out of the park. So
all right. So the Pretty Deadly put Street Profits over.
Street Profits went over. We saw the modified Doomsday Showtime, as I think the name is still being workshopped a little bit, but great finishing move. Looks good. They can hit it on anybody. And the Street Profits needed this run. I want to keep this going for sure.
Okay. So it was a good segment. I remember because we watched it together that the Street Profits, although they won, they kept Pretty Deadly kind of strong here. So it was kind of a win-win. They get a hometown pop, and they're still well within grasp of the tag titles.
Yeah, I don't think this puts them too far down. I think they can still lay a claim and say, hey, we've had one of the best matches against a title holder so far. I feel like it's been a minute since we've seen Motor City Machine Guns. I'm assuming they didn't make the overseas trip, but we're on the tail end of that. We'll be coming back home soon. We should see some faces that we haven't seen in a minute. But again, we've talked about it before. The SmackDown tag division, I think they're doing it right. I think they have a lot of people are here. They're focused on the title being important, and that's what keeps the division going.
Most definitely.
So what was the next segment after that?
This one was a little bit weird for me. We got Caden Carter, Katana Chance who we absolutely haven't seen in a minute. So to have them back in the ring was a good change of pace. But I will say, if this is their official tag name, I'm all for it because their opponents, Alba Fire and Piper Niven, which they said it a couple times, so I assume this is the name, the Secret Hervis. As Marcos likes to point out a lot, I like the dad jokes. That's a good pun. That keeps me right there. I'm all for the Secret Hervis.
Yeah. I mean, for those listeners, it's a play on Secret Service because, Hervis, which is pretty good, pretty snazzy. I like it. I like it.
I think the biggest takeaway for me in this match, it's exactly as you'd see. Chelsea is playing that cowardly heel to perfection. Bringing in Alba Fire and Piper Niven, I think that gives them a really good dynamic. They can play off of each other well. But probably the thing that I was most impressed with in this match, Kaden Carter, she hit a Samoan drop on Piper Niven that just kind of showcased the power there. Clean, looked nice. In the end, Secret Hervis went over. Numbers game, Chelsea kind of interfered a couple times. And we get a little backstage segment with Zelina Vega saying, hey, you all do what you do, but I'm coming for that belt. You can't hide forever. And keeps that growing. Obviously, we talked about last week that Zelina kind of came out of nowhere. We hadn't seen her in a minute. She switches brands, and then she's like, I'm the title picture. So
yeah,
that's still a little bit weird for me.
It might be a SmackDown title match for them, because they're gonna promote it as the night before WrestleMania, WrestleMania preview.
True. Yeah,
that's so they gotta stack that card, or else it's gonna be promo, beat down.
Yeah, we do that go home show. It's important for sure. I hadn't even thought about that. That's a great point.
This is right.
But yeah, overall, I think probably my biggest issue leading into this Mania season, as we're like fully in the month, we're there now. This seemed like a filler show. It didn't give me a whole lot until the end. Because next up, we had something that's been worked on for a while now. We've had a lot of build to it. Braun Strowman, LA Knight for the U.S. title. This has been growing for about a month and a half now. But we know that the real story here is going to be Jacob Fatu.
Fatu!
All gas, no brakes. You knew it was only a moment of time. Braun and LA Knight had a little good back and forth. Braun dominated, essentially. It looked like this was going to be a cakewalk title for him. LA Knight got a little offense here and there. But especially with the way that they set up the first half of the match with Braun being so dominant, you knew it was only a matter of time. And then we were right there. And in comes Jacob Fatu, destroys everyone, double disqualification, and LA Knight retains. Other part of that, I feel like SmackDown, more so than Raw, and maybe I'm just forgetting, you all can remind me, I feel like we've seen a whole lot of DQ finishes on SmackDown lately.
I mean, they are trying to keep characters fresh. I assume that they can't have a build on somebody that's going to be on the main card that loses cleanly to somebody else.
Right.
Like that's why I feel like that role would go to like Selena, because she lost to Piper like a couple weeks ago.
True.
And then is still demanding a title shot. It's like, bro, you couldn't beat Piper. Why do you think you deserve a title shot? Now it could be a situation where she challenges her and disrespects the champion Chelsea, and Chelsea's like, all right, I'll give you a match, and then beats her cleanly and then end a feud. But yeah, it's a weird time. Like if you have a back and forth, like sometimes if you beat like the champion in a non-title, and then you kind of feud with them, and then you go in and it can be formulated. It could be it could be tag matches, but like it'll get you to the point where everybody wants that title match. But yeah, sometimes you got to go with with the dusty finishes,
and we get a lot of them.
Get a lot of like DQ baby. So that's what we had to close out SmackDown.
Didn't close us out.
No.
Oh.
That was kind of our right before the little interim break that we got.
Mhm.
So next up, Michin versus Charlotte. You talked about how impressed you've been with Michin lately. She's really
Mhm.
kind of being that quintessential when you think back to those 80s, 90s for folks that have been around a minute, that enhancement talent that
Mhm.
can go in and put on a great match just all the time. And I'm not saying everything's perfect, but when you need a solid match and you need somebody that can make it look like it's going to be close, even if you know it might not be close, she's pulling that off week in, week out right now.
She's like they're Tito Santana, they're Greg the Hammer Valentine. Like guys
Exactly.
that you're like, oh man, this is gonna be a great match, but you know, at the end of the day, they're not gonna win the title.
They're not
You know?
going to go over.
Yeah.
And with that, before we even get there, Michin is coming out with B-Fab. That's their haven't even really tagged together, so it's a little bit weird. I assume that they're going to be in that tag title picture soon. But before we can get there, Naomi comes out, attacks Michin, attacks B-Fab, beats him down, brings Jade out. Jade comes running down, chases Naomi off. Doesn't fully chase her because she stops and helps out B-Fab, helps out Michin, and like checks on her friends. They had a little backstage segment before that, you know, hey, good luck. I appreciate what you're doing type thing. And Michin says, no, I'm still ready to fight. So she goes in against Charlotte. The one problem that I had here, I feel like there was a problem with every segment for me, but I'm not trying to be that negative.
Okay.
As soon as we get to the ring, within 2 minutes, we cut to commercial. And we cut to commercial and we come back, and it was a good back and forth for that like 2 to 3 minutes. And we come back and Charlotte dominates, locks in the figure 8, and we're done. And
I mean, they gotta push Charlotte to the moon. She's still a returning heel because the face thing didn't work out, and they try to make sure that
they
she
tried
has
so hard.
They try to make sure that she has a claim. You know, unfortunately, that the way that WWE is structured now, you don't have a lot of jobbers. Like, you know, the 80s and the 90s, you had, you know, your guys that don't get intros, you know, your guys that pure enhancement talent. But now it's like every person on the card is an actual superstar that they can be called upon, and it's like this is the prime season where people just have to take L's sometimes. And I think this is an appropriate one because like you're basically making Michin and at some point I believe B-Fab like your Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Like if you could kind of give him a run because Michin was in the finals for the US title, had a couple wins, and you know that legitimized her, you know, and then now she's like, you know, still in the main event scene because she's facing the number one contender, but you know, she has to put that number one contender over. And they're not squashes. It's not like Charlotte is coming in, hitting like a kick, figure 8, and pinning them, like, you know, or whatever, or submitting them. So this, I kind of like how this is working, and they're kind of giving them a storyline because now she's involved in the Naomi, which I believe at some point is going to give us some matches. So,
and,
you know,
and I didn't have any issue with Charlotte going over. The part that I didn't like is that our beginning segment led us into the match, and then we immediately went to commercial, and we come back, and it's essentially the end of the match. So I felt like we lost too much on the entrance to not give me enough in the ring. Because as you said, we've got two good talents. Let's see it in the ring.
Yeah. It could be just poor pacing of the commercial breaks, because those, especially with SmackDown, since it was pre-taped because it was going to air in USA, I guess they have hard outs in the commercials that it's already like you can kind of like change it up when it's live TV, but when you're pre-taping, it's kind of like tape delay. It's kind of harder because you're broadcasting live to the UK. So,
and I tell you what, that's one thing I'm going to miss with this international tour. Like you talked about, we've been able to catch these live at the tail end of the day or whatever, have some awesome little, you know, watch alongs for it. And because it's broadcasting live they don't cut to commercials for us. So we don't see that. So initially, when I watched the match, I was like, all right, I'm cool with this. But when I went back and rewatched, those commercials were in there. And that's when I was like, we lost the match here.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm going to miss this tour ending because I missed that afternoon live show.
Well, like I know if you're international and you have Netflix, you can still watch all these shows live, and you can avoid commercials by just starting the show late. But at a certain point, the segments do catch up, and you still end up being on the live thing unless the show ends. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's a pretty cool little tool, but I think they do much better job like talking to each other about commercials. But I think when you're doing the show live, that's going to be pre-taped for later. It's a lot harder because I don't think the refs are mic'd. Like they're not, they don't probably know if they're going on break. Like I believe when it's live, you have the production team, and then the ref is earpieced up, and they're like, all right, we're going commercial in 10, and then they're like, all right, commercial, and whatever the hell they do, because I'm not a wrestler.
Get your rest hold.
Yeah, it's a rest hold or whatever, So
knock him out of the ring and piss off the crowd.
So what was in the next segment?
So we get a little bit of the payoff from the opening. We've got Drew versus Randy. The first 10 minutes of this, exactly what you would expect out of Drew and Randy. Two top tier, easily in the title picture, vets of the ring, killing it. And fantastic. And then they kind of swerved you because to what you were saying earlier, here comes Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens interrupts. That interruption, he didn't get a DQ out of it. He distracted Randy enough that McIntyre hits the Claymore and gets the win. So he did avoid that dusty finish, did get that clean pin. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness we're not going with the DQ again. I preferred that. And I guess that's why we didn't see it at the beginning of the show, because we got it at the end. It's probably more important that it happened here than it happened earlier. So I'm all for it. Owens then came in, tries to get a piece of Randy. Randy flips it on him quick. Owens slips out, runs through the crowd. One thing that kind of shocked me, which I know we had a very big segment to end the show, but I'm surprised that this didn't main event the show, because we followed that up with Jimmy versus The Miz.
Yep.
Which was another great one, but in my eyes, with what we're doing right now, that Drew Orton, even with KO doing the interrupt, sits higher than Miz Jimmy right now. And we've talked a lot about what's Jimmy going to do. He doesn't have anything yet. Is he going to be on the card? How's he going to be on the card?
I think if anything, he's going to come out with his brother be in his corner.
I think that makes the most sense for me. And I think I'm down with that.
Thank you.
As you say that, I'm like, oh, please don't let it lead to another Jimmy J match.
I don't think he's going to go that route. I think he's going to be there to like stop any shenanigans.
Yeah.
Like I think at a certain point we might have a match where Gunther is like, I hit this man with like 9 finishers. I'm done. He's beneath me. I'm leaving. And then he tries to leave, and then you'll have like Jimmy like not throw him back in the ring type deal,
Yeah. You're not leaving yet. Get back in here.
Yeah.
Surprising that we didn't see Carmelo Hayes here. Carmelo and Miz have been that tag team together for a minute. They've been buddy, but I guess we didn't see Carmelo at all. Maybe he had to head home early. I know some of the folks were already packing up after the event and coming back to the States. So maybe he had to duck out a little bit early, but surprised not to see him. He didn't even really get mentioned at all.
He probably because some people traveled, I believe Wednesday. They traveled back home.
Oh yeah,
because like they switched out certain crews and people stayed for SmackDown and then worked Monday.
Okay, but Miz and Uso again, and I think it just goes to show what you were saying before, how much talent is just in the WWE right now. I mean, Jimmy Uso and the Miz have 10 to 15 years each. We're talking 30, 40 years of ring experience between the two.
Mhm.
And you just get good, solid matches out of that. Great back and forth, two consummate pros. Jimmy gets the win with the Uso splash, but both looked fantastic. I grew into a Miz fan fully, wholeheartedly. And then I stopped to look at it and I said, well, that's not surprising at all. Miz did all the things that someone in that age bracket, because he and I are almost identical age, he did exactly all the stuff that I wanted to do. Doing the real rule, doing road rules, doing all of that, turning that into a WWE incredible career.
Oh, yep.
All those things, like I applied for that stuff back in the day. Obviously didn't make it. I trained to be a pro wrestler. Didn't make that either. So he did all those things better than I did. So big hats off to him.
Yep.
His resume, fantastic. Anybody that disagrees, you're wrong. And that's just, you won't change my mind.
So was that how the show ended, or did we get something else after that?
We got a lot of something else after that. Well, there was a lot to unpack from it. Only one more segment left, and that's the contract signing.
Okay.
So we got,
they got to put over a couple things. There was a lot of revelations during that contract signing, or one big one rather.
We got Seth, we got Roman, we got CM Punk. Of course, Paul Heyman's in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Punk already told us that he's gonna, go over that contract before he signs it. We get the typical back and forth. Seth was way more quiet than I expected him to be. Obviously, he's in this. He hates everybody. But that true relationship, where is the wise man? Where is Paul Heyman? Where does his allegiance lie? And Paul gets down and says, I know what you're looking for in that contract. It's in there. I made sure that you are the main event. So night one, we've got CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins in the kind of ultimate grudge match. Punk signs it. Before Punk can sign, Roman says, now that we've done this for you, acknowledge me. Which I love.
Yeah,
keep it going. Make sure that he knows that that's your wise man. And there might have been a favor owed, but he owes that to you at the end of the day.
Yep.
Punk gets down on a knee, and in the CM Punk most sarcastic way ever, oh, I acknowledge you. But then once he acknowledges, he signs away, turns, stands up, and says, but that's not my favor, and walks out. So I know Marcos has got a theory brewing.
I'm just saying, I got a theory.
As soon as you said that theory, I don't know if Siri's listening. I don't know if Amazon's listening. I got too many smart devices. I don't know if they're listening and then start feeding it to me, or you were at that leader of the pack. But as soon as Marcos tells me Paul Heyman's going to leave with Seth and he's going to make sure that Seth wins, he puts it in the group chat, timestamps it, everything. I got a hats off to him. He's the first one that said it. 4 days later, the internet is going, this is what's going to happen. They're putting together little clips. He's going to turn on him. He's going to turn on him. He's going to go with Seth. So
it makes sense. It makes sense because think about it.
A whole lot of sense.
They could easily, very small details. They could say that Paul Heyman was the one that told Seth that he needs to cash Money in the Bank in WrestleMania all those years back, against Paul Heyman's former client and against Paul Heyman's current client. You know what I mean? He already took Punk as far as Punk could go. And how did Punk repay him? By leaving the company and leaving him alone. And then after a while, when the Beast decided to leave, he floundered. And then he found Roman Reigns and coached Roman to be the tribal chief. And then Roman started getting a big head, thinking that it was solely his talent, that it wasn't his wise man. And he forgot about that. And then Paul paid for it, for being his wise man. And then Roman came back way too long after to defend his honor. And the only person that kept talking to Paul and saying, hey, I wouldn't let that happen to you, was Seth freaking Rollins. You know, it could have. This could be cinema. It could be Seth made the call to cost the tribal chief at WrestleMania 40 last year. You know what I mean?
Even if we don't have the back tie-ins like that, even if Paul says, you know what, I was tired of you two fighting and pulling my strings, I'm hitching to a new horse. I still think, and we've talked about it before, I love when I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen here, and I'm excited to find out.
That sounds like a great SmackDown. Thank you for that wrap up. Now, Derek, guys, we're doing things a little bit different. We're kind of like everybody's picking a show for the week, and we're kind of going to go over as quickly as we can, but give us our input and everything, because we're trying to get this abbreviated episode out there to you guys for the consumers. So now Derek, our podcast leader, is going to go over Raw. So Derek, the floor
makes Derek talk some more.
Yeah, the floor is yours. Woo! The floor is yours, man. This is your time to shine, baby.
Oh Lord. All right, so we got Monday Night Raw. We watched that together. That was great. Once again, being able to watch it during the daytime is so nice, even though it's still only 2 hours and 23 minutes instead of 3. But neither here nor there. So basically, we started off with with John Cena coming out. John Cena coming out, let the crowd do what they do. He's holding the mic. They're chanting, Cena sucks and everything else. When he puts the mic to his mouth to say his first words, we get Cody Rhodes coming out. Cody Rhodes comes out and he's like, I already know what you're going to do. You're going to badmouth me. You're going to talk about my lisp. You're going to talk about that I was Stardust, this, that, and the third. He went over everything that Cena could have said. Cena's like, no.
He pulled the B-Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pulled the B-Rabbit.
This is my 8 Mile, and I'm Eminem.
Yep.
He was like, bro, I'm not going to do that. He said, yo, I make billionaires rich. He was like, you take from their kids. Like he dug in on them still.
He was snapping hard.
It was, oh man. But to me, that was definitely the best segment of the two that we've gotten this whole time. Cody definitely came in and did his thing, like straight off the back. Yeah, definitely a good segment. We got the sneak attack from Cena at the end that was a fail, and Cody put him on his back, had him looking at the lights, and left out.
I think that was probably one of the best parts.
I agree.
We need violence.
I needed some violence in this. I needed some physicality, and that was enough. There wasn't a ton. Cena tried to get back in. Cody caught him. Crossroads. Pointed to the Mania sign.
It was just a bad attack.
No. He didn't just point. He did the too sweet, bang, kiss, Mania sign.
Yeah.
Same thing he did 2023 Royal Rumble when he won up on the top rope. He gave that too sweet to the Mania sign, even though that year he lost. So does that mean that he's gonna take an L this year to Cena? And Cena's gonna get that 17. I'm just saying,
look at that ring psychology. See, that's why we gotta have Derek talk more.
I was actually ringside for that match. That Royal
Rumble I'm shocked by that.
Yeah. Hey, no. First time being ringside. It was great. Let's see. After that, we had the New Day come out. They had their match.
Come on, we need more passion.
Hey, look,
New Days is your boy. I need to see that smile. Listen, so what happened?
That is definitely my team of choice. New Day came out.
What's that huge thing in the background beside those belts?
That is a wall, sir. That's a wall.
Oh, it's not covered by anything.
Nah, that's I can't remember what WrestleMania that is. In Tampa.
That's what
WrestleManias. It is the New Day.
Welcomes.
They've had like two. We need your chair to sit up higher because you're like covered by your name. Even though he's talking, he's hiding.
You're
the
tallest one in here, 6'5", and he's like,
he made his. I know your computer chair got to be low right now. Like, come on, man, boost that up, baby.
The desk is pretty low. Okay. So, but yes, it's the New Day back there, signed by Kofi Kingston. By the way, got to get it signed by Xavier Woods. So
I'm sure people on this pod can make that happen for you.
I know. I think someone can, but we'll see. We'll talk outside. But so they had their match against, I want to say the team is called the New Czech Republic. It was Bates' return match. And it was a good little back and forth, to be honest. Wasn't my favorite match of the night, even though, like I said, I am a huge New Day fan.
Dude, they rocks or they suck. Which one is it?
You know what? It's
always
your
rocks.
It's your choices. As long as they're booing or cheering, I don't care. Okay.
I think it's New Catch Republic.
That's okay.
Like catch style wrestling.
There we go. Look, tell me something because I haven't seen them.
I got a little bit.
Oh, good. This is a show, man. This is what we're here for. We're here to make sure that we bring you the scoops, guys. So,
yes.
Go ahead. Continue.
I got a little bit of that wrestling knowledge for that catch can style wrestling.
Okay.
So that match ended with New Day going over. New Day having a segment, I want to say mid-ramp, going back, saying that, we did what we said we were going to do. It's kind of time to put us in that title picture, which Raw definitely needs to start focusing on, like SmackDown, because when was the last time we seen a title match, let alone, the titles really be out there. So we definitely need to get that because we love tag team wrestling. Let's see. After that match, we had, I want to say Jimmy and Jay. No. Yeah, Jimmy and Jay segment. We had the Jimmy and Jay segment in the background, in the backstage.
Yep.
It was basically Jimmy saying, "Yo, I don't need you out there. Gunther's just a guy. Like, I got this. I'm gonna show you. What you need to do." So after that segment, we get to, I want to say it was that match. That match was
and
after.
He regretted his words.
Oh my God. One of the best matches of the night for me. It was a good little back and forth at first. Gunther did his thing with dominating. Ultimately, it went with Gunther winning. Gunther was trying to inflict as much pain on Jimmy as possible. He was not letting that 3 count go through, with lifting his head every time the ref would get to about 2.5. Afterwards, he did finish him off.
He busted that man open first.
No, I thought that was after. That's after the match.
Oh, that was after the match.
Yeah, that was after the win. After the win, the brawl came. And like Shane just said, Jimmy got busted open. It was bad. No, he got beat up. Jake came out and helped and ran Gunther off, and they started walking him back.
Yeah,
and Gunther turned around and came back.
This man is playing chess. He's out there like, "Oh, you thought I left?
Yeah, he smacked.
I'm gonna spin around the block for you, son."
Quick.
He said, "I am the ring general for a reason."
Yep.
Yes. Look, that was. I thought he was gone. Jay didn't chase him, just kind of like how Jay didn't chase Naomi on SmackDown. They start walking them back. He comes back out. Hits Jay in the back of the head, puts him through the stairs, does a little more damage to him. Security comes out. I've been trying to figure out where this zip tie came since Monday night. He started laying out the security and then took the zip ties out of one of the security guards' pockets.
My man is playing Call of Duty. He's waiting until people roll up with the supplies he needs.
Listen. He goes over there. He zip ties Jay.
Diabolical.
He zip ties Jay. Like we've seen so many wrestlers get handcuffed to the ropes before.
I've never seen him get zip tied.
Never zip tied. I've seen handcuffs.
I feel like the zip tie has something to do with where we're at.
It's got to be a UK thing.
Because
that's the only thing we can think of.
It could be a thing where like handcuffs. It could be a situation where handcuffs, like normal people, are not allowed to have them there.
Okay.
I know firearms is not a thing over there. That's why a lot of people carry blades.
You saying Gunther is just a regular person?
I guess.
You know what I mean?
You tell him to his face.
A law enforcement officer. I will tell Gunther to his face. Gunther's actually one of the nicest guys in the world. I've never personally met him, but I've seen his interactions with people just like out and about, and he's not a dick. like I'm not gonna go and say he's the greatest wrestler ever, but like I see him. I see the joy he gets with kids and everything. Like, you know, like I think he handles fans appropriately when they're trying to like go and like interrupt a meal. Like, you know, he'll talk to you and then he'll politely say, "Hey, not right now. You know, I'm kind of enjoying my day off." It's like, you know, like, hey, let me be. Like
I think that's a credit because top to bottom, I think that's true of a whole lot of the roster these days.
Yeah,
I think the only time that we see some of that, and it's well deserved, some of that aggressiveness is when the female wrestlers have to kind of push back and say, "Leave me alone when I'm in these situations because I am not comfortable."
Yeah, no, for sure. Fans be weird sometimes, man.
Fans be fanning. Like, you know, again, this is a podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans, and I try not to approach. Like, I've seen multiple wrestlers, you know, traveling, and I don't want to say I don't acknowledge, but I don't engage unless it's a situation where it calls for it.
Most definitely.
You know what I mean? You know, especially if it's somebody that, you know, that it's like, oh, that's cool. But like the airport is a very hectic place unless you're sitting down eating. But if you see somebody trying to make a flight or arriving, like the last thing that they want to do is sit there and like interact with a stranger when they're trying to get themselves situated. You know what I mean? Like there's a time and a place. If you really want to meet that wrestler, you know, go to a meet and greet. Like, you know what I mean? Or I don't know, wait until the you know when the moment is right. There's so many opportunities for you to meet a wrestler when they're on the clock. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we live in a time that sometimes people equate, like, you know, posting on social media with somebody being a part of an individual's life.
Yes.
And you know but that's a conversation for another day. So continue the segment.
That's a conversation that can go for hours.
Most definitely. Let's see. So we got Jay getting zip tied.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Gunther just lays in on Jimmy, man. Like, it was good to see because I like the brutality, but at the same time, like, Jesus Christ, that was a lot of blood.
He just took away any shot Jimmy has of being in WrestleMania. No match yet.
But I enjoyed it because it was like, you know, you got the what I believe is the classic line. It's like, I'm gonna kill you, bro.
Jay couldn't do nothing but talk. That was it. But I'm hoping seeing that will bring out that dog in Jay, because going into WrestleMania,
I see a moment that you know, shout out to social media for as if letting him go. There's somebody shared a picture of like Jay talking to Roman back when Roman gave him, you know, the right hand man moniker when he was like, you made event Jey Uso, baby. Like, he needs to have that moment with Roman.
Yeah,
like at a random SmackDown or something, or when they interact and be like, yo, you got this, dog.
How do we get there? Because Roman has his own thing going now with this contract.
I think it's family. It's family. You could do it the SmackDown before. You could even do the day of WrestleMania. Like, you know what I mean? Like
just a little backstage segment.
Backstage segment. Like, hey man, I've been meaning to sit with you, and I just want to say, man, we both got big nights. But you know, I wouldn't be the tribal chief if I didn't tell you that tonight is your night. You know, you got all the tools you need to make it happen. Go show the world what we always knew. You know what I mean?
That backstage segment, I think that's one of the ones that lends itself, and it's almost cliche, but it would work so well there.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy isn't at Raw next week because he's recovering from the beatdown, and Jay's just sitting in the back, kind of, you know, head in his hands, frustrated with what happened. All I want is to get him. And he's just in the locker room sitting there for a minute, and then we cut, and Roman's there. And Roman gives him that little pep talk.
Or even like, yo, we could lead up to that pep talk. You know what I mean? You could have him interact with Cody. You could have him interact, like everybody that's been with him throughout this process. You know what I mean? You could have him even if they're backstage and there was Solo Sikoa and you know, and you know, his cousins that, you know, can be like, hey man, I ain't got no time for this. And then, you know, have Solo Jacob be like, hey, you got this, Oos. You know what I mean? Going out to the ring or something. or you'll be like, yada mean, like, you know what I mean, like something like that'll get you amped. It's like, you know, the equivalent of Black Panther, where his mom says, "Remember who you are," and then it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there it is, like, you know, it's like the Rocky moment, like that, like, you know what I mean, like. And I feel like it's gonna come because WWE is really good at telling these stories.
And something that they could lean into that we've talked about is a great way. I couldn't save my brother. You know, I'm slipping up. I got caught on the ropes. I literally slipped. I'm not main event Jey Uso. I'm not even main event after winning Rumble. Who am I now? And that's when they start that. Like, have him get in his own head. How can I be main event Jey Uso if I'm not the main event? And they call it out because the fans know. Especially the internet community, they know. How is he main event Jey Uso if he's not the main event of WrestleMania? I have a feeling that he'll probably kick off night one because that's what I want to see. I want to see them come out and just, you know, burn it down immediately.
It's either that. I believe that both nights the beginning matches are going to be barn burners, but he could also call main event. You know what I mean? Like, he could come up and win like right before the main event because they've done that before. But, you know, it's up to you. Like, they have so many ways for them to do this.
They're so good at
it. And I think the WWE is really good at doing this. So, you know, it's one of those situations that it's like, all right, we could do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
For sure. It's gonna be great, regardless. Wherever they place it, so it's gonna be amazing.
So moving on, what's going on with the rest of the Raw? Let's pick up the pace a little bit. You know, let's do this. You got this.
I watched it twice and I don't remember what happened next.
So after that segment, we had the tag team match with Finn and Dominic against Braun Breaker and Penta. To me, wasn't really my favorite match.
Brenta, that's your tag team name. Brenta.
Brenta.
Why?
So to me, that one wasn't my favorite match. Definitely a little lackluster versus what came before it. But that match went with Finn and Dominic going over. Went to a little backstage segment shortly after that with Finn being excited in the back in the little Judgment Day locker room situation backstage.
The clubhouse, dog. Put some respect on it.
It don't look like a clubhouse no more. They don't even play PlayStation back there anymore. Okay,
it's because the game released. They don't need to hype it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it is still the clubhouse, though.
It don't feel like it. It feels like they just be standing there nowadays. But
I feel like, because you reminded me of what happened. I truly completely forgotten. But I feel like we do a disservice if we don't call out Dom and his epic move. He pushed Finn out of the way so that Braun speared Penta.
And
Penta and Braun
did
face to face again.
He did. That definitely led to a little match for them coming soon. Basically,
well, and because we got a backstage segment out of it too, didn't we?
And then you had Liv there going like, "Oh, he's acting like you didn't help him win."
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
You know
what
I mean?
That's what I was getting to. Liv planting the little seeds. You know how devious she is. All right, but love to see it because we need a little controversy. So after that segment, we had Ward. What came after that segment?
I don't know. I need your help to get there.
No, there's one more match. There's one more match before the main event. I feel like I'm definitely drawing a blank now. Lord.
It's all good. It'll come to you. If only we had a place to look up this information.
Oh, trust. I'm looking it up right now.
But I will say, so while you're doing that, I'm gonna jump in for you.
All right, got you.
We did get a little. I don't know if it was in the ring or if it was as they were heading to the back. We got a little Penta Braun confrontation, and in that confrontation, I remember it because Marcos called it out. Penta was like, "You messed me up. You made me lose." It was definitely a odd pairing of words, which English is a second language. We got to give some grace there, but definitely an odd phrasing for two men that were trying to go at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can hit you with a little alley oop there. So the next segment, of course, we had the incident that Shane was just talking about, and then it led us to AJ Styles coming out and finally calling out Logan Paul. Yeah. Which, to my surprise, apparently Logan Paul travels with the guys all the time because he's always backstage, and he pulls up, and then kind of like they go the back and forth on the mic, and then Paul is like, I don't really think you deserve a match with me, and I'm definitely not going to have a match with you here. And they kind of like allude to the Paul AJ Styles match, but then I like the fact that Paul hits his finisher on AJ Styles to end this segment, and they kind of like go to a commercial and come back, and then it's like, it is official, Paul versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. And it's like, when it comes to a feud like this, you don't need anything else but that. Like, it's like, dog, I ain't doing nothing, you ain't doing nothing, I don't like you, let's settle this in the ring, because guess what, we're actually wrestlers. And then that led to the Jackie Redmond segment with Lyra Valkyrie, and Lyra was basically talking about, as a champion, she was like, yeah, I'm really happy for Bayley, but I appreciate her, but I gotta focus on my title, and I want to defend it against Bayley on the next Monday Night Raw. So they set that up, which is an odd thing. It's kind of like we kind of know where the mid-card title for the SmackDown group is going. It's going to end up with a title shot for Zelina wherever it's going to happen. But I feel like this is like they're doing a very slow burn with something that they don't have a lot of time to talk about. You know what I mean? And hopefully they have a better plan, and we just don't have it in the works. That, you know what I mean? Like, we don't really know what's going to happen. And so that gets us to what is probably going to be our last segment. What was that last segment? It was the main event of Monday Night Raw, Derek, which was what?
True.
Tell us about it.
All right, I got to go back for like half a second, though. I definitely remember now why I forgot that last segment. I'm not a big Logan Paul fan. He was definitely a reason I got to sit ringside at that Rumble. But that finisher that he hit on AJ Styles,
it's
I
clean.
don't know what it was called, but that was beautiful.
It's clean.
That's all I got to say.
They did name it.
They named it something. I don't remember what the name was.
It's something like impulsive, the impulsive or something. The impulse, or I don't know.
The impulse.
It was something.
That's what it was. I think that's what it was. But whatever it was, that was a nice finisher.
It was.
Going to the main event. I'm going to give a little bit of credit to the UK fans. They seem much more tuned in than the US fans. As soon as Paul came out, all they did was chant douchebag. So not to hate on a man that I don't know. And I've heard some rumors that he's trying to change things. He's trying to make some amends for previous errors. And if that's true, hats off. I commend that. I'd love to see it. Especially when he's in a business that I have a lot of people that I care about inside of that. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to get better.
Oh, no, most definitely. So going to that main event, we have Bianca Belair as a guest referee, her first time refereeing in her whole WWE career.
The most jacked referee that we have seen
ever.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
Cena. Cena was a guest.
No, but even better than that, I'm almost certain Brock Lesnar, like, special guest referee to match.
I said what I said. The most jacked special guest referee.
I'll give it to her before I give it to Brock. So
since Ken Shamrock.
So that match was for the women's world heavyweight title, with Io Sky being the champion and Rhea Ripley being the challenger. A lot of back and forth in that match. Bianca Belair took 2 hits from both people, and she did not disqualify them at all after the first one. She was trying to let that match go. She was calling it down the middle. It was rough. It was rough. She even was holding the 5 count. Like, she was doing everything she was supposed to as a special guest referee. And, normally somebody getting hit by the referee. And then they like, hey, I got this W on my chest. Like, you can't touch me or this is over. So that was a good back and forth. It ended with a double DQ, and that really
it set up most importantly.
Oh yeah, the WrestleMania match, the triple threat. Rhea is gonna get added into this match because she's not letting this go, and we're gonna get that Rhea versus Bianca, which is what we've wanted since 2023. Since 2023 WrestleMania, and yeah. That was basically the end of Raw. I mean, Io Sky's there. She's there. We didn't forget about her.
Hater. Hater. The reigning and defending champion.
She's only been champion for what, 2 weeks now? No, 1 week.
No matter. She's a champ, baby.
Yes.
A champ. Yes. Just like Miz. She's going into WrestleMania as champion and might leave WrestleMania as champion. Who knows?
Man, you think Bianca's gonna lose this streak? Bianca has a streak right now.
She has a streak of 4 WrestleManias. Come on, dog.
Hey,
she ain't
so does Roman.
Roman's like undefeated in Mania, bro, except last year. So he's not.
Roman's undefeated at Mania. Roman lost to Seth. Yeah. Seth cashed in.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's all good. However,
he feels undefeated at WrestleMania.
When he closes his eyes at night with his Ulafala.
His Ufalafa.
Anyway, moving right along to close out our wrestling week, as always, is the amazing, not recognized as much as the other big 2 shows, NXT. NXT, again, was live on Tuesdays on the CW. For those of you that are international, you could watch it on Netflix. Netflix, cut the check, guys. We're over here promoting you guys. Anyway, so the show kicks off with Stephanie Vancourt and Ava. They come out and have a segment that pretty much Ava said, well, I've had conversations with Stephanie. Stephanie's a double champion, but she wants to return the opportunity that was given to her when she first came to NXT. So she's relinquishing the North American NXT title. And there's going to be 6 women that are announced for a ladder match for that particular belt that's going to happen at Stand and Deliver, which is their WrestleMania. So we basically, throughout the night, we get told that there's going to be 6 matches to determine 6 participants. And immediately, like the show, at first, the crowd was booing because all they heard was she was going to relinquish the belt. But then as soon as they said why, everyone, they're like, hey, like immediately, it was pretty cool. And then within seconds of this announcement, Jordan Grace comes out and tries to challenge Stephanie Vancourt, but Miss Parker, not being one to be outdone, she comes out and says, whoa, hold on there. Jada and Grace start a brawl that seemingly did not end until the entire show was finished. And then they cut to the backstage. The women are talking about like, oh, I want to be in this ladder match and all this stuff. There's a couple women that that seems too difficult. They're not even a part of it. So the pacing of the show is actually very good. It's one of those situations that they use the time that they have to put over the talent that is in line to get put over. Because immediately after that segment, you get Trick
Can
Williams.
I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we can't leave that segment without talking about Jordan Grace yeeting that security guard over the rope, throwing him like 7 feet deep. Obviously, he helped a little bit, but if that didn't make her look like the new Amazon,
she's the mini juggernaut.
It was amazing. Chuck that dude, just threw him.
Yeah, it's a power of presentation that WWE has. They know how to do. They know how to book segments. For all the comments that we say as fans and all this stuff, WWE is probably one of the best, well-produced products out there. Regardless if it's scripted, regardless if it's live, whatever, they know how to put together a good product for most of the times. Yes, do we like all the stories that they have? You know what? We don't like all the plot points in certain movies that we watch. But you know what? When they get it right, they get it right. So,
and we basically haven't seen somebody thrown out of the ring like that since Spike Dudley.
Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing segment. And so basically we have Trick Williams basically calling out Obafemi, and then he gets interrupted by the individual that he's actually Javon Evans he's been feuding with. It's kind of like it's funny because later on in the show they acknowledge what is going on. And in an actual promo battle that happened, but I thought it ran a little bit longer, and I wish Javon Evans would have gotten a little bit better coaching on his promo skills. But basically, we get to another backstage segment because they use these very well in NXT in particular. I think WWE should learn from that and try to expand it a little bit better on their other shows. You get they get a small backstage segment again with the women reacting about the announcement, and then the first match is announced is Saria versus Lash Legend. It was a big, with meat slapping meat, big meat slapping meat, because they're two very, very physical women. They're beautiful as well, but finally Saria gets a pin, which surprised me because I thought Lash Legend was going to be there, but they probably have other plans for her. So
they chopped the crap out of each other.
Yeah, they did. It was a good match. I recommend you guys should watch it. And then we had a couple backstage segments with Josh Briggs, Yoshiki. They had a segment where they were talking about what they want to do. They want to get a title shot, and then you had Wesley and his tag team Tyreek and DuPont basically making fun of them, which led to Yoshiki challenging Wesley after their amazing banter. It was pretty cool, and I like the fact that they're using a person that's kind of not known too well in the States to have that moment for them to shine. Josh Briggs, if you guys have been following NXT, he's great on the mic. He's great at what he does. So you having him, giving him a tag team partner that now there has to feel comfortable to be able to talk on his own is good. It's good for business. And then all of a sudden we get a backstage segment with Ava, and then it's Roxanne Perez and Kalani, in which Kalani's talking to Ava, talking about like, hey, I was the first North American champion. I really want to be in this tournament. And before she could continue to plead her case, Roxanne Perez says, girl, don't even worry about it. It's going to be my belt. I feel like I like this a lot. I'm going to take this belt because, she's the prodigy. So after that segment, they basically announced that that they were going to be in the main event to face off for the spot. And we get the second qualifying match for that particular ladder match that they're setting up later. And then we get kind of a cool little segment with D'Angelo and his little mob crew. And they basically they do two things with this segment. They really put over what I believe is going to be Stax and D'Angelo's split. Yep. Because they're like really bumping heads. And then you get a full in-depth Dark State introduction.
What a fantastic way to introduce a group.
Yeah. And they kind of like give everybody's bio, and they do it in such a way that it fits the show and it's not forced. And it's like, I definitely recommend, if you did not see NXT live, you should definitely go watch this segment. It's something, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. And then, from that backstage segment, you get Tank and Hank backstage with cropped tees, which was hilarious because guess who suggested them? It was Pretty Deadly, who took probably a red eye and ended up in the States for this particular segment. And it was pretty funny because they had they were back there and they kind of get joked on, and they're like, man, take all this shit, and they're like, all right, let's go to this match because they were being challenged by No Quarter Catch Crew. So they have Catch Crew and they have No Quarter Catch Crew. So it's kind of weird. In the WWE, the names are very similar. And so you had Hank and Tank versus No Quarter Catch Crew. This match was amazing. A lot of athleticism here. Both teams could go. And it kind of like, it was a match that you expected. The No Quarter Catch Crew went over on the faces because the storyline between Hank and Tank is that they're kind of like trying to find their way in the tag team division. They're big horses that are paired together, but it's kind of like they're trying to find their way. And No Quarter Catch Crew is a crew that's been together for years now, and they're kind of like already on their way to at some point challenge for the tag team titles. So right after this, you get Trick coming out, who still has the best entrance of the business, in my opinion. And he comes out and he's cutting a promo on Oba, and he's like, yeah, I want you for the belt, and blah, blah, blah. And Javon Evans comes out and interrupts him. And Javon Evans, and I like the fact that he's being pushed, and he calls him out in this segment. He's like, bro, you're acting like Carmelo Hayes right now. Basically saying that Trick is doing to Javon Evans what Carmelo Hayes did to him last year, literally last year at this particular time. And I like that correlation. And they go back and forth. I didn't like the fact that Javon Evans kept saying bro every other sentence. Like, come on, bro. And I was like, all right, but I get it. You know, I'm older than him. That might be the slang. I don't know. You know, I'm not a kid in my 20s that's hanging out and trying to be the urban superstar that he is. And then, you know, say his name and he appears. Obafemi comes out, doesn't rock with the disrespect, and you know, kind of says, Javon Evans, you lucky I didn't kill you last week. You know, whatever shot you got on me, that was lucky because he got knocked down by him, and they made a big deal the way they presented it. And then, you know, Trick is like, yeah, let the grown-ups talk. And then Javon Evans inserts himself, and they get into a brawl, or they're about to get into a brawl, but then Dark State shows up, descending from the crowd, a la, you know, a Shield, and they come down and pretty much lay waste to the main event, because right prior to them coming out, Ava says, you guys are going to be our main event. It's going to be a triple threat, which is the match that they've been angling. It makes the most sense for everybody involved. And then Dark State comes out and is like, we don't care. We're going to beat everybody down. And it was amazing. So my 2 cents here, Javon Evans is the leader. I think
really?
at first I thought it was going to be Trick Williams, but I 100% guarantee that I think it's going to be Javon Evans. I think that's going to be the big reveal.
Trick has been the popular opinion. That's kind of where they started to lead us.
Yeah,
and they kind of been like pushing it away, so that makes sense. But I thought they were just kind of pushing away to not make it too obvious.
Yep. And then after that amazing segment that gives us finally our main event, and that I think NXT low-key always has the better pay-per-view out of, you know, like they try better. Then it's definitely not going to be the better, more spectacle, but like in terms of athleticism and the hunger, they bring it on, you know, their stand and deliver shows.
Yeah.
And then we get Chase, you know, from Chase U, formerly of Chase U, just kind of like showing his decline of like they're telling him like, hey man, he's backstage getting checked out, and they're like, you're gonna be fine, but I can't clear you to wrestle. Do you have anybody to take you home? And he looks at the camera and goes, I'm all alone. And then his former students come in there, we're like, come on, man, we'll take you home. And then as they're wheeling him out in a wheelchair, coming through, like I said earlier, you had Jada and Jordan Grace, who apparently been brawling this entire time backstage, just pop up, and then it's kind of like Ava steps in and it's like, we got to stop this. You guys are already fighting for this match, for the spot. It's only one of you guys is going to make it. You're fighting next week. And which was a good resolution. It's like, give us some more. Like, it's cartoonish, but I love it. And then our main event, one of our main events, it was Kalani Jordan versus Roxanne. It was a great match. Honestly, if it wasn't for the main event we had, could have main evented this show.
Yeah.
Kalani Jordan has been very well known that she can't beat Roxanne. She hasn't ever beat her in NXT. And then when it counts the most, she beat her with a wonderful split leg moonsault and kind of surprises everybody. And she locks in her spot. It's her and Saria for the 6-person ladder match at Stand and Deliver. So that's going to be one to watch. I like where they're going here. I think they're going to breathe in fresh blood into that title instead of it just being the same old people.
Yeah.
And then
easily the biggest win that we've seen Kalani Jordan have.
Yeah. Besides her winning the North American title the first time, which seemed like ages ago.
I honestly, I think I might even put this ahead because they built that Roxanne Perez as, you know, her demon that she can't get past, and finally conquering that. I know what titles mean. I know what they do. I know how they elevate a person, but this feels like it pushed her to that elevation even more.
Yep. And I think so as well. And to close out this pod and to close out the night for NXT, we had Ricky Saints, the formerly known as Ricky Starks, cut a great promo on his way out to the ring, and he comes out and the crowd is behind him, and it's like the presentation that they have him, it looks night and day different than how AEW, although AEW is running shows at the time when he was there in bigger arenas, it was just the atmosphere in that NXT arena. It is always amazing. And he comes out, has an incredible match with Sean Spears, and kind of like throughout the entire match, he's with a ball of energy. Like Sean Spears' entire company or whatever, his faction was trying to interfere most of the match, and he kept out. He had an answer for everybody, and even the finish, he hit an amazing DDT on Sean Spears, laid him out. The Culling tried to interfere. He goes out, lays out not one, not two, but all three members, and then runs inside, hits Rochambeau, and in a great ending segment, Ricky Saints, aka Ricky Starks, previously is now the North American champion in NXT. In less than 2 months, this man has eclipsed his entire AEW career. I don't care what anybody's going to say. The way they presented him was a stud. And then how you want the show to end, you have Ethan Page out of nowhere, mid-celebration, lay him out and credits. That's how you freaking book it. Stand and deliver. You're going to know they're going to have that match. And I'm locked in. You guys know that NXT has 5 or 6 matches at max, and all of them are bangers.
All of them produce.
So, Shane, go ahead. I see you wanted to jump in. Let's do this.
That's not exactly where the show ended, but it's exactly where the show ended. Because the show ended with Ethan Page holding the title, standing over Ricky Starks, and that crowd,
nuclear.
Not only was the crowd just hot all night, but at that moment, they started to chant, Tony fumbled. And I'm not going to poo-poo on one or the other because I want everyone to be successful. It gives opportunities for people that we know, that we care about, something that we enjoy as fans, as people that want more wrestling everywhere. And I don't want to see anybody fumble, but if there is a more telling sign than that, when you close out a show leading into your biggest show of the year with 2 guys that were there 6 months ago that had nothing going on, and now the fans are, and all 3 of the people in the ring were there a year ago because Spears was there a year ago. He was the chairman of AEW.
Yep.
This show closes out with 3 people that weren't deemed good enough for AEW and are now closing out the show of NXT. I don't care what you want to say about the Wednesday Night Wars or anything else. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And that's how you book it. Like, look, you had a guy in Spears who didn't sniff a title in AEW. I might be wrong on that, but I felt like he didn't hold any singles titles.
I don't think he held any. He tried to go like the TNT Championship a couple times, but
yeah. And then you have somebody, Ethan Page, that I don't think the only title he won was maybe in Ring of Honor. Like, he had a cup of coffee in AEW. Didn't really do anything. Ricky Starks had a make-believe title. Was Ricky the TNT champ at a certain point? Because I remember him just being the FTW champ.
Yeah.
Which was an unofficial. Yeah, it was like an unofficial belt. It's like, this is a belt you can carry around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a real belt.
You can borrow it.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? And now you had Ethan Page, who was the NXT champion, come down and have an even hotter program with Ricky Saints. And I think they're going to still involve Sean Spears in a way. And not only do you have a guy that was one of your main eventers come down and elevate the NXT North American title and have these 3 big names fight for it, but everybody wins. Sean Spears still is in speaking. He's the leader of a faction. He was a champion. He beat somebody that was really good and D'Angelo, and this is how you do it. And that pretty much ends our wrestling week. So anybody, you guys want to add anything, or we're pretty much done here? This week we're about to start another wrestling week, guys. We need
about to kick off again. I will call out, from what I hear, it absolutely did happen. But Jordan Grace tweeted out, "All right, I can't do that anymore because as soon as she threw the dude out of the ring, when she got to the back, she had to take a drug test." She's like, "I'm not allowed to show off that much anymore."
Damn,
that's funny.
Wow.
So, like I'm telling you, it's a gem. It's a gem. NXT. If you have the time, you could watch it on YouTube. You could, if you have Netflix and a VPN, you can rewatch it during the week. I welcome anybody if you want to see good wrestling and people that are being put over. It's a factory of getting new talent, and they don't just put them out there to die, because it's like they're not sending people up until there's a spot for them.
One of the things that's really, really impressed me with NXT, with the shift and the changes that we've had recently, is they're not just backstage segments, they're like scripted segments, if you will. It's almost that Lucha Underground feel to it. They progress the story a lot while being super entertaining, while having that almost mini TV series mentality to it. And we're seeing that with all the different factions, with Dark State, with the Culling, with the Family. Having all of those kind of intertwine and play off each other is really adding some depth that wasn't there before, and I think it's super entertaining.
Yep, it's really good. I'm a big fan of the show, and I even forgot Dark State. Ava booked them in a tag match, in a triple,
that's right,
in a 6-man tag match against the main event, and they had a wonderful reply. They were like, what it felt like social media, like, oh, we gonna get these guys. They're like, it's all good. It's in the bag. We got this. We'll see you next week. And it was like, that's dope. Like I like it. So all right, this is the part of the show where we tell us who we are and where we can find us. I am, of course, Marcos, aka at the Sunset Kid 56. You guys know where to find me. Derek, where can they find you?
Well, I'm Derek. Y'all don't have to go follow me. Go follow the podcast. Go follow it on YouTube at Bumps, the letter N, Bruises Pod on YouTube. Same thing on Instagram. We will have a TikTok and a Facebook coming soon, as well as Spotify.
Apple and Spotify both coming for those audio only versions. If you listen on your commute, pop it in.
Stay tuned for those.
Drizzen, Shane, where can they find you?
At Drizzen13 on Twitter /X, at Drizzen on Instagram. But like our Big E inspired friend said, go follow the podcast. You don't want to follow me, I'm boring.
Yep,
I am.
There you go. So guys, this is the end of the show. You're going to catch us next week, in which we recap the wrestling week for fans by fans like us. We'll catch you next time, guys.